Hi, this is John of Nutrition John's Gardening Channel. Today is August 15th, 2015. What we wanted to talk about today is a little bit about what we do with some of the produce that we get from our community garden. Today we're going to be talking about kale. We got a whole bunch of kale that we picked last night. The pile on the left here, we've actually washed that and it's ready to be juiced. We're going to be juicing that today. The pile on the right, we're going to be using that tomorrow. Trish likes to saute that down in a saute pan. A little bit of butter, a little bit of black pepper, salt, and that's going to be fantastic as a side dish for tomorrow's dinner. Now today, again, we're going to be juicing. I want to show you a couple things. Number one, it's going to be a carrot, apple, kale mixture, and the carrots and the apples are store-bought. The kale, like I said, is from our garden. Now I use the kale pretty much as is. I cut this as low on the plant as possible. I use the entire stem, and I'll show you why in a minute. I like to do that for two reasons. One would be, obviously, you're getting the benefit of using the entire leaf and not just the upper portion, but it also goes to the juicer a little bit better if you leave these tails on, if you will. Now the carrots, I cut the carrots up fairly small. You don't have to do that. I like to cut them up because they just go through the juicer a little bit easier. Makes it a little bit, the upfront work makes the juicing part of it much easier. We've got the apples, again, fairly small sizes. These are getting a little bit brown here. I was setting up and everything, but still perfectly fine. Wanted to show you about the juicer a little bit here. We've got the Omega Vert horizontal auger style juicer. This is a little bit different than some of the juicers you may be used to, which are centrifugal, vertical in nature, and they have a centrifugal bowl with a mesh bowl that separates the pulp from the juice. This has an auger style mechanism with all of these little ribs here that has a tendency to chew the food. It's very similar to the way that you would actually chew the food, and as it goes down in the hopper, it gets pulled in, it gets crushed here in this area. The juice falls into this. We've got a strainer here that comes with this juicer into this hopper, and then what comes out the front of the hopper is all of the fiber and pulp that we actually use in the garden. I want to show you that at the end of this video. So again, I really like this juicer. If you're using it for greens, if you're using it for wheatgrass, things of that nature, this juicer does very, very well. Now, again, we're going to do the carrot, apple, kale. One of the things with this juicer is you don't want to do all soft vegetables or fruit. If you do a bunch of apples, let's say to make apple juice, what happens is you're going to find that it gets, I won't say clogged, but it's very difficult to get the juice. You may have to clean it halfway through. Not a big deal. This is very easy. I could show you a real, here, this whole thing comes apart. So I could wash this. This stays intact, and you just take this apart. You can probably wash this juicer in about 3 to 4 minutes. You're done. But if you're doing all apples or something like tomatoes, something that's very soft consistency, you may find that it's kind of a pain in the neck and you start getting this thing clogged up. So what I like to do, we're going to do that today, we alternate with something that's a little bit harder in consistency, like these carrots. We'll be doing the kale, apple, and then carrots. And what that does is when you start putting the harder, maybe root vegetables and whatnot through the juicer, it has a tendency to help push all of the product through the juicer and all of the fiber and whatnot out of the front of the juicer, and it just helps with the juicing process, makes it much easier. So I'm going to turn it on. It's probably going to be a little bit noisy. This juicer is not horribly noisy, but probably for the video you may not be able to hear me talk too much. So I'll start the process, and then I'll actually show you some of the things that we do to get these things juiced. We started the juicing process. Now, one of the things I mentioned, the kale, I like to leave the tails on. One of the reasons why we do that is because you can see here, if I just throw that down into the hopper, it actually has a tendency to help pull the leaf right down into the hopper. It makes it very easy rather than trying to stuff the leaf down there. You know, you got to help it along. It doesn't always get pulled down all the way, but as you can see here, it definitely helps in the process. So I would recommend that. Again, I'm going to alternate kale, apple. You can see here that the apple is much softer. It has a tendency to almost pulp in this area of the juicer, but by putting a carrot in there, alternating, it helps just push all of that through, and helps generally in the juicing process. So I'm going to continue here, going ahead and juicing all that. Now you're going to be amazed, all of this kale that I have, I'm probably going to use all of it and get the amount of juice that I'm going to get out of this batch. Won't be all that much. It might be 2 12-ounce glasses. If I'm lucky, I might get 2 16-ounce glasses of juice. See all that pulp that's coming out of the front end of the juicer? What you do is just as it goes, you just tamp down, and you know, as that hopper fills up, I just kind of crush it down and tamp it down a bit. The other thing I want to mention is you can see here the strainer. Now the strainer's nice. I like having the strainer there. This way you're not getting all of the solids in the juice. Some people like to get those, you know, as much fiber as they possibly can, so they don't use the strainer. I typically do. I'm not looking to get fiber per se out of the juice. I'm really just looking to get the benefit of the kale and all of the, you know, the goodness that comes with that. So one of the things that you need to do, I find, is go ahead and use the plunger here to kind of move the strainer around and get all of the juice to go through the strainer and kind of crush it a little bit. You may need to wash the strainer. That's one thing I noticed, like here. What I'll do is I'll take the strainer out. I'm going to go ahead and wash it. Now, it's not perfectly washed, but good enough for what I'm doing, you know, halfway through juicing here. Now, let me move this back a little bit. You can see I'm probably, you know, about a third up on the hopper. I notice when you're at the bottom of the strainer, typically that's just about 2 12-ounce glasses here. So that's kind of my gauge. As soon as it's up to the bottom of the white portion there in the strainer, that's when I know that I've got 2 good glassfuls. So again, I'm going to tamp that down and I'll just keep juicing. Again, you can see by using that tail, we just let that suck that thing right down in there. Again, I like this juicer because it's one of the reasons it really has a tendency to chew up the food and pull it in. Okay, we're done juicing. As you can see here, we've used all of the carrots, all of the apples, and we've used just about 2/3 of the kale in this juice mixture. We're going to be setting this kale aside with the rest of the kale that we picked yesterday, and we'll be cooking that up for dinner tomorrow. Now, the first thing I wanted to show you is the juicer itself. Again, with a really just about a 15-degree turn of the front end of the juicer, the whole mechanism that's really dirty comes off, and this is very, very easy to take apart and go ahead and clean. I would make one suggestion is once you're done juicing and you have this mechanism dirty like this, you want to go ahead and wash it right after you juice. You don't want to wait too long. I wouldn't wait, let's say, overnight or anything like that. That's going to make it much more difficult to get the, you know, get the pulp and everything out of this mechanism. If you do it, you know, within an hour or so of juicing, this cleans up in about 3 or 4 minutes. So that is one suggestion. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is the byproduct that comes out of the front. All of this fiber here. A couple of things you can do with this. I've actually seen people where they'll actually take this and use it in recipes, muffins and whatnot. The other thing you could do with this is use it if you're propagating worms for your garden to generate worm castings. This would be phenomenal to put in there, and food for your worms. The third thing is compost. This would be tremendous to put in your compost pile. Unfortunately, at the community garden where we are, they frown upon any kind of a compost pile. So what we do is we take this, I put it in a container, and when I go up to the garden, I go ahead and dig a hole maybe 18 to 24 inches deep, and I'll just take this whole pile and I'll just dump it in the ground and cover it with dirt. This way the worms in the garden have, you know, they love it. They come and they congregate, and this will be gone within a week. Even after burying it, this will be completely gone. You wouldn't even know it's there. So it's really, really good for the worms in the garden. The reason why I bury it is because for the animals, we don't want to attract any rodents and whatnot to the garden unduly. I mean, they're there anyways in some cases, but we don't want to attract them there if we can help it. So I don't want to just scatter this around the top of the garden. You definitely want to go ahead and bury it, you know, at least a foot deep, drop it in there, cover it with dirt, and you're good to go. So that's really, really phenomenal, and it's a really good we're not wasting anything. All of the produce that we had today, we either juice it and drink it, or we use it in the garden for feeding the worms and all the microbes and everything else. So last thing I just want to show you here, we do have our juice that we extracted. That's at least 32 ounces. Let me show you here my Guinness glass, how much juice we get out of here. Now you could strain the top. I really don't typically strain it. So you could see easily fill it up to the line there. We've got that. So that's about 12 ounces. This is a 16 ounce glass. The other one I'll pour off for Trish a little bit later, but you can see here, phenomenal. Better than Guinness, actually, I would say. So easily 12 ounces of green gold. I think that's it for today. Again, we just wanted to show you what we do with some of the produce and the fact that we do like using the juicer. We juice all kinds of stuff from the garden. We've been juicing the cucumbers and whatnot, even the tomatoes, etc. So we like using the juicer. It's one way we use the produce in the garden. We just don't cook with it. We also, again, like doing this method. Again, using the byproduct of all of the fiber. We just don't throw this away. This is phenomenal for the garden. So we use the entire vegetable, the entire fruit, and we get the benefit in two different ways. So that's it for today. If you like this video, please like us on YouTube or Google+. If you see us on Google+, please add us or follow us. That would be fantastic. And that's about it. Hope you had a really good day, and we will talk to you very soon. Cheers.